Today's session, I'm excited to co-host with my friend here, Bradley, which I'll introduce here momentarily. But just so we're not complete strangers, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dallas Knight. I am the Vice President of Client Success and Channel at Blue Light. I also am a combat veteran and have an extensive background in intelligence analysis, primarily with law enforcement. And if you're wondering who is Blue Light and this organization that I work with, well, I've summed them up into about 3 words, and that is experienced, being that the majority of our staff is prior law enforcement, military, intelligence analysts, or a combination thereof. We are cleared. We are fully cleared and able to work with the federal government on multiple clearance levels. The majority of us hold top secret clearance, and we are innovative, which brings us to what is Blue Fusion. Blue Fusion is our patented technology that creates a sense of efficiency, and you'll get a full dose of how that works here momentarily. We are adaptable, being that we are data and platform agnostic, and we absolutely love to work with business partners and vendors and other resources that provide you with amazing, robust data or ways to transform your data into actionable intelligence. And we are absolutely flexible. You'll see that we are in small shops across the globe, and have very large installations, such as the US SOCOM in our military here. So with all of that said, today's, actually I say today, but again, this is the 4th presentation today. Right now's session is intelligence-led investigations for law enforcement and corrections, in essentially just streamlining that workflow, especially from an analysis standpoint, but this absolutely is applicable to detectives, investigators, operators, and so on, especially working collaboratively with those intelligence analysts. It just, again, creates the most efficient workflow. In today's agenda, we'll be discussing tackling audio with DS Voice, hence my friend here, Bradley. And I will do a complete solution overview from more of an enterprise perspective, bird's eye view, if you will, followed by a live demonstration. And then we will round things up at the end with answering any questions that you guys have. Just a quick logistics. I point out 2 different ways that you can communicate with me throughout the presentation. First is the Q&A. Please pose any questions that you have there. We will absolutely get to them at the end, but it also just allows us to make sure that we get to all of them versus the chat, which feel free to use. Any comments or feedback is more than welcomed. And you can even talk amongst yourselves if you feel required. So with that, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce to you my friend here, Bradley. He is the director of DSI, of which he's going to brief you on in its entirety. But they essentially have come forth with another innovative solution to a huge challenge and problem with anybody dealing with essentially voice, audio, video, anything of that nature, in addressing a time-consuming task. And Blue Light is super excited to be an official partner with them, and we are growing our integrations together, and you'll see how that's layered in. But Bradley, without further ado, the floor is yours, sir, and I will do my best to navigate through your slides based on your prompts.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dallas, and good morning, everybody. Good evening over here, but what can you do? Okay, Dallas, click. And so our background is we've been involved in cybersecurity and compliance for the best part of 20 years. We started out as a consultancy advising on everything from cybersecurity to nowadays we do ransomware, and we do a lot of the big class compliances, not only in Europe and the UK, but also in the States too. We were approached about 2 years ago to look at alternatives for working with voice files. We had a client that there was a retailer, and they had a major issue with staff that were not particularly well trained in their call centers, and as a result, the customers were complaining that their data was not being looked after and they were not being protected. The solution that the client had then was to use paralegals to look at every voice file. And that, you can imagine, was refreshingly expensive. So what we did was we came at it from a completely different perspective, and we looked at transcription initially. And we realized immediately, doesn't matter who provides the transcription technology, the problem is it's only ever as good as the device that you use to record it. So if there's two people and they're in a nice acoustically set room with the correct technology, speaking in the States, Northeast American English, or in the UK, Southeast English, it's very good. It's 90+% accurate. Anything else, and it seems to fall off a cliff. That's not just our experience with one company, that was with all of the players. So we took a different view and we said, right, what really do you want from the voice file? You're investigating, you're looking for keywords and phrases. So what we now do, and this is a major USP, is we look for keywords and phrases in the raw data itself. Then we create the transcription. This means that you can remove a layer of confusion and error when you're looking for the correct keywords and phrases. As a result, we partner with IBM and we partner with Arrow, but most importantly, we partner with Blue Fusion and Blue Light, and we've set up an American company, DS Compliance Inc., which is wholly owned US-based firm, which means that everything we do is on American soil. In the UK, we have clearance for all the government and security elements you could imagine, and in the States, we will do the same thing. Thanks, Dallas. So the initial examples that we've been producing, one was in banks where they were concerned about their personnel going on social media and joining pages or creating pages and making comments in a way that could damage the reputation and the ethics of the banks. So we've developed a solution there that will effectively scrape social media looking for keywords and phrases. Similarly, the retail sector, I've bored you with that before. Most importantly, which is why we're all here, is in the blue light sector, which is really geared for police and any others. And what we've discovered is there's at least 3 incarnations of our technology for police. So the first of those is, of course, covert activity. So if there are 100 hours of recordings, we can help look for keywords very quickly and free up the human element to be able to do other things. You'll see an example of that in a moment. The second example that we have is for body cams. So again, you can record with whoever the normal partners are, and then we can help with the analysis of what that's recorded. Third area from the police perspective is call centers. Did the officer follow the right rules? Did they make the right statements? And then finally, within the prison service, is we've developed dialect and language capabilities, which means that if we know what the keywords are in those dialects, that's what we'll look for. And that's a very fast way of developing awareness in the voice files. We also do stuff for accountancy practices, but I don't think that's relevant for today. And we built APIs for I2, for Redbox, other technologies. And of course, everything we do is going to be mounted on Blue Fusion. Thanks, Dallas. So in this example with the police, they hold large quantities of recorded voice data from all sorts of sources, and that they need to be analyzed. And the average human can last about 10 minutes per file going through this. It's very, very tough. From a UK police perspective, but this is also true in the US, of course, this increases officer and staff operational efficiency. It lowers administration time and frees up officers to be doing their job, which is policing. Our insights are data-driven, which means that you can make faster decisions, and they're supportable from an evidential perspective. So if you go to court, you'll be able to say not only this was the data and these are the keywords that we found, but also who was authorized to make the searches, what keywords were decided upon, did you rerun using new keywords, the same information, and all of that you can do with us. There's a push, as you know, for digital technologies, and clearly this is it. It's available both on the cloud or in local services. And we contribute hugely to ensuring that key information is not missed. And it slows down and removes manual, repetitive and duplicative business processes. Okay, thanks, Dallas. So as I touched on before, it's available in dialect versions. We're all about finding the keywords and phrases rather than transcript accuracy. Our transcription is based on IBM technology. It's as good as anybody else out there, but that's not the purpose of what we do. What we're after is finding the right keywords and the right phrases. We help with the digital transformation and management of data. This reinforces what we just said. We've also touched on that transcription is lengthy, it's expensive, and not always accurate. And because we can process, transcribe, and analyze audio automatically, that's a huge uplift in what's currently out there. The way that our system works, and you'll see an example of that in a moment, is that we alert users to files where there are keywords in the process. So what that means is that, going back to my example of 100 hours, and you're looking for half a dozen keywords, then we'll be able to tell you immediately which files have got the keywords, and therefore probably worth looking at, and which files don't, in which case don't waste your time. Navigation is very, very straightforward, and you can go backwards and forwards between voice and transcription. You'll also be able to manage this from a case management perspective. So you can see who the speakers were, who the team was that was investigating this, how many times you ran through a file to judge it further. And that also includes it from the investigation teams, output reports for audit and disclosure. For example, prosecutors or lawyers that may want to see what you've done or what they want to present in court. And we ensure that all of this is audited and logged to meet compliance requirements. Thanks, Dallas. Hello, have I looked up? Okay, so here is an example of a missing child. You have the calls to 999, you have the radio comms with officers, you have the interviews with suspects, and it may also include covert surveillance, all of which we can process and transcribe automatically against any sets of keywords and advise and flag for the investigating teams. Okay, thanks, Don. Right, so I'm not going to do a live demo today because unfortunately I was out in London all day and I'm having a panic attack, but I'm going to show you what the process does. So in the following example, you'll see highlighted keywords, alerts, and editing of the transcript. Thank you. So in this case, where it says audio, those would be all of the files that have been recorded for a particular case. You can see the audio title, and you're free to create whatever titles you need to. The type of call, in this case, 999, as you know, in the UK is the emergency call, but that could be any type of messaging, when the date occurred, and then crucially, the alerts. Now, before I go into that, if you look on the right-hand side, you see we have two things there. We have major crime keywords, and we have specific case keywords. Major crime are templated keywords that you always use for the same type of crime. So in the UK, there's about 1,500 different types of crimes where these words and phrases are used. So you can use that one immediately to try and find, were they in accordance with the crime under investigation? More interestingly, is under specific keywords, you can create your own keywords. And so anything that comes to mind, you can then look for it. Once you've done that the first time, those the column that says alert will tell you how many times the highlighted keywords appeared in those voice files. And you can create as many different versions of this as you like. So for example, let's suppose that the first time you do this, you're looking for somebody called David. Turns out David has a nickname that's Dell. You didn't know that the first time around that you were looking at this, but it's come up separately. You could then run another search looking for Dell and another one looking for other connections. And so you build up layers of evidence to show how you arrived at the conclusion that this individual had an alternative name, was connected to other parties. You can also see on this one, it says upload audio, top right. That means you can choose to set up, say, manually, you can just upload whatever files you need to do, or you can do it automatically. So our work with Blue Fusion means that you can do this through Blue Fusion, you can do this on i2, and just upload the whole body of work if those are the keywords that you're looking for. On the left-hand side, on the left-hand side, it says edit case details. That's where you can choose who's the actual team members. And because it's police and because it's security, we've created a very secure way that you can delegate activities and protect against, how shall I say this nicely, human error. Thank you. So in this case, we've got an actual file, a voice file. And on the left, you can see the transcription at the bottom. And on the right-hand side, you can see those keywords again, and you can see where the keyword appeared in the conversation. If you click on those keywords, it will take you exactly to where it is in the voice file itself. So that the audio you can see at the top, it would take you straight there. That would help you set the context. It would help you also see what's being said. Also, you can allocate where we've got speaker 1 and 2, you can allocate that to be whoever the speakers are that you've identified. So if speaker 1 was John and speaker 2 was Mary, you would be able to do that for going forward purposes. You can then see all of the new transcripts that you create around this. So where you see transcript, next to it, you'll be able to see new ones. The red button says case keywords have changed. That means that this version is going to have new keywords added to it. And then the turquoise button allows you to change the transcript. Now, we never change the original transcript. We never change the original audio files, but you can change subsequent copies that will help you work with this, but you'll always have that evidential copy in place. Thank you. So you can add voice data to a case, you can create new cases, you can add metadata, both manually and automated, stroke bulk, and you can select keywords and processes. We're doing work at the moment with the prison service in the UK, as I said before, around dialects and languages. It's clearly not going to be limited to just UK slang. Next, please. So remember I said before about how you set the rules of who's allowed to do things. So in this case, you can allocate the title of the recording, the date it was made, the starting time of the recording, who was present, and any additional notes that you need to do. But what you can also do is add team members and a hierarchy around who is allowed to do whatever parts. Okay. Thanks, Don. Okay, Dallas. So remember we said that we've connected this up to Blue Fusion, and we've also connected this to i2 in all of its incarnations. So in this example, you can see this is how it would appear in simple i2 front end. Click. And this would show an individual voice file with the individual phrases or sentences with the keywords in them. I know this is very confusing. We help you all the way through in terms of training and backup. Our side is very straightforward. i2, of course, is a magnificent beast. So there's lots of overlay here. And in the example I'm showing you, it shows the case recording, then an individual sentence, excuse me, and then the keyword from the sentence, and then to go back to the recording itself. Okay, next one, please. So the second point here is that sentence which has the word hesitation in it. Hesitation might be the keyword. It's been highlighted, and you'll be able to click on it and hear it in the voice file. Next one, please. Similarly, you can look for individual keywords. In this case, there are 3: tornado, approaching Colorado, and thunderstorms, and you would be able to see where they appear in the sentences that you're looking for. And in this case, although it only says audio file 1, if you'd had a bulk upload, all of the files would appear there that would be relevant. Okay, so manually, voice files can be analyzed within DS Voice. We host via Blue Fusion, so there shouldn't be any issues over that. We can host locally for police forces too, or any other body. And then once those voice files are analyzed, they will then download to wherever you need them to go to. So it could be something as obvious as PDF files, or it could be as sophisticated as audio files, as we've just seen. And from an automatic perspective, you can feed into DS Voice stroke Blue Fusion. So if there's multiple forces that need access to data, all of that can be run from one place. And users can then review and edit transcripts and keywords and push back to other forces systems. Thank you. So this just reinforces what I said before. So Blue Fusion, i2, Redbox are the 3 examples. Because we go through IBM, anything on IBM, we work with that. Anything on Microsoft, Arrow too. So we've a wide range of APIs, and we do all the work for it. We don't expect you to do anything. So operational benefits, we sell this purely on blocks of minutes. So there's no numbers of users. There's no, oh, this user has never used it, and this one's done far too much work. It's very, very simple commercial model. It's on blocks of minutes. You use those blocks, you buy more. And you negotiate prices, of course, against the volume of those. We're sector independent. That means that we can deal with high volumes of customer data, with high numbers of staff, and also staff turnover, which is probably not such an issue for police forces. It's very easy to implement, and of course I'm going to say that, but it is. You can have it standalone or just access it through Blue Fusion. It fulfills essential risk and compliance tasks, and that frees up people, which means it saves you money. And I hate to be commercial, but that's the simple truth of it. This frees you up to do other things. It also provides foundation for consultancy work or longer term compliance review. That, again, that's not really relevant for now. And it's good revenue generation for our partners. But again, I don't think you'll care too much about that. So the USPs are, it's an overarching platform that integrates very quickly with other technologies. We help to manage compliance and other regulations. You choose what you like. It's all based on a modular basis. So as we said before, it's numbers of minutes, but also we can help you prepare, for example, with templated keyword and key phrases that you want everybody to use, or for key information. The case room provides a curated space where you can investigate, load up and reload information. And why now? Because we're all being plagued with increasing technology advances, and this is a very strong method to analyze what's going on in the digital world. Next one, please. So other softwares that we can work with, things like encryption, access control, audit log management, hosting and cloud services, managing rights, individual rights or deletions and restrictions, a whole host of these. I don't want to bore you with that. Next one, please. So who we are, we were founded by former directors of building societies, British Telecom, PwC, ex-police officers. Our chairman is a former senior manager at GCHQ. Really, we're a lot of ex-police and ex-spooks. And we do everything from forensic discovery to, as I bored you with this before, with compliance. Excuse me. And we're all about managing and ensuring the security of data. So in summary, compliance, security and regulation. We have market knowledge of the pain that you're going through, and that voice is a very, very strong and simple way to address a major issue. And it can be applied to other areas, and we've talked to that before. So I think there's one more slide. That's it. So thank you all very much. I hope you've enjoyed it. I apologize for my horrible English accent. And if you have any questions, please fire away.
Don't apologize, Bradley. Their voice is turned off. That's kind of funny since, you know, we're talking about voice. But yes, the Q&A section, guys, is completely available to you. So if you have any questions pertaining to this amazing technology, please plug that in. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and press forward with the presentation. Let's see, share my screen again. All right. So next, I want to dive into Blue Fusion and where it fits in the grand scheme of things, leveraging your current technology that's coming down the pipe, new innovative data resources, such as what you've just seen. And so the easiest way to do that is through this very simplistic architecture here. So on the left, you'll see there's 4 primary layers, and it doesn't matter, honestly, the industry, the use case, how big or small your organization is. I see these 4 layers regardless. And the first we all have an issue with, and it's an abundance and an array of data. We have data that we own, that is internal, that we access. And then law enforcement and corrections realm, we're talking, you know, records management, CAD, other intelligence databases and things of that nature. But there's also a plethora of data outside that fence in regards to OSINT and vendors that we pay for open source records such as LessNexus, TLO, Clear. And then there's the other realm where we're subpoenaing and getting records in structured format, and then there's tackling unstructured data. So with all of those things considered, going through all of those data sources, understanding, collecting, consolidating, and getting to a point that you can actually conduct analysis and investigation is very time consuming. The typical analyst that I talk to says that they reach out to 10 to 15 data sources per bit of information and spend on average 5 minutes per data source. That's almost 75 minutes over an hour worth of time per piece of data. So if I hand you 5 phones, you're looking at 4 to 5 hours worth of just querying and collecting and consolidating data and actually doing no analysis or investigations. So with that said, that's where Blue Fusion was born, and that is our primary value proposition to you in an effort to help save you time and energy. So we fit nice and snug between all of the data sources that you're currently leveraging today and kind of run those through your head, right? Think about all of the data sources that you query on a day-to-day basis, internal, external, subscribe to, and so on. And then we allow you to have a one user interface federated query. What does that mean? No code, no SQL queries, no IT individuals involved. You have the power of asking the question, have the ability to be very flexible in a very user-friendly environment and hit those data sources simultaneously. So we build connectors directly to the data sources, so you're always going to have the most real-time access to your information. There's no replicating, no duplicating, no moving any data, no need for one big, huge data lake. Leave the data in place, connect directly to it, provide you one user interface. You ask one question, it hits all of them and brings back a consolidated view of those results. What you do from there is completely up to you. Are you going to feed a user interface layer? We plug into most intelligence platforms. We are seamlessly integrated with Analyst Notebook, but we are platform agnostic. So we are in talks or currently have integrations being built with several other user interfaces as well. So if you are comfortable in whatever you're using today, awesome, we can implement. And then with that said, we also can provide a storage layer if that is a requirement, or tap into the one that you're already leveraging, providing a collaborative environment. So as you're collecting, consolidating, and researching all of that data and conducting rapid analysis, now that you have this amazing new federated query, most likely you're going to need a place to store that information. so that you can leverage it tomorrow or next year or 10 years down the road. We all know historical information can be very pertinent to jumpstarting current investigations. Knowing and understanding patterns and individuals who have a history in any type of criminal activity can just further validate and help support your current investigations. So the live demonstration, this is what it looks like. Blue Fusion is going to be seamlessly integrated with the Analyst Notebook, but just again, keep in mind that we are data and platform agnostic. So jumping over into my live environment. As I mentioned, Blue Fusion just pops right in here to Analyst Notebook. So if you're familiar and leverage this platform, awesome. This should resonate with you very easily. But again, this would look very familiar in any other platform as well. In my environment, I'm connected to, I think, 7 separate data sources, and we'll take a look at those momentarily. So leveraging Blue Fusion, as I mentioned up front, we build those connectors. You're connected directly to the data sources, never moving, replicating, duplicating anything. And when you ask a question, it hits it live. You're going to get the most real-time results. And again, that's a federated query. There's 2 primary ways to ask questions of those data sources, through our property search and visual query. Visual query happens to be my favorite, being that one, it's very visual in nature, hence the name. I can essentially break out my coloring crayon and draw out my question, but also because it has extreme flexibility in being able to ask very complex questions easily. So I don't need to, again, know how to write any type of coding. I'm just going to draw out what I want to ask. So I'm going to focus on some entities that I think we can all resonate with here. And that is people, organization, and some phones. And so now my question's starting to read, find me a person that's linked to an organization as well as a phone, and that phone is connected to another phone. Now, once my template is established, I can now set parameters and conditions around this data, anything that I want to set on the links or the entities. So within the link, if I want to determine this is indeed a communication link, I can do so. And now I can set properties around date, time, the type of communication, duration, even the content if you're looking at text messaging. Furthermore, and then keeping in mind of what you just saw, this could also be a query around particular audio files and looking for keywords pertaining to certain phones or jail phone calls or surveillance and what have you. So again, all this can be designed around all of the different data sources that you're tapping into. And that goes for any of the entities as well. So if I have partial description, identifiers, what have you, of my person, an organization type that I'm particularly interested in, just plug all those in, and then you're going to hit search. When you hit search, one of 3 things is typically going to happen. First and foremost, you're going to get results. You're going to be satisfied with those results, best case scenario, and you're going to proceed forward with your workflow. Or second, you're going to get results, be dissatisfied with them, but you have the full flexibility to come back to the drawing board, make a few adjustments, either be a little more vague or more specific, and then go again. Or 3, you're not going to get any results. And that absolutely happens. Sometimes the data is not there, or it's not there just yet. With all of those things in mind, we gave you the ability to save your query. And this does a couple things. It allows you to, 1, come back to this query whenever you need to ask this question again. And if you need to make tweaks, that's okay. But also you can save this query with, or excuse me, share this query with your team, no matter where they're located in the world. So now I'm allowing my partner to, kind of hit the ground running, being that we ask a lot of similar questions of our investigations. But furthermore, I also have the ability to turn on this reoccurring query. And this is my favorite part, being that it enables me to hire a virtual analyst to work for me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at my discretion. I determine when this query is going to be ran next. Maybe it's at the top of my hour, and then at what interval I want it to go at. So I can have it run as often as every hour or as infrequent as every 24th week. Once that's decided, I determine who within the solution is going to be notified. Maybe Marcos and I are working in tandem on an investigation. We work on opposite sides of the country, working different hours, which is true. And that way we can handle as necessary, depending on when the results come in. Furthermore, if we find we're not in the solution as often as we may want to be alerted to those results, we can plug in our email addresses and be alerted. Now, as I mentioned, by default, I'm going to hit every single data source that I'm connected to, but you also have the flexibility to turn them on and off. So for in this example and in this environment, I am connected to these 7 sources. I have deep web, dark web, case management, records management, Department of Motor Vehicle, and an intelligence repository. This could also be comprised of DS Voices repository and all of the data that you're sucking into it and allowing it to process for you so that you can easily find key bits of audio that meet your criteria. And then again, leveraging these saved queries is as easy as loading and picking it from the list. So here I'm just going to pivot onto another query here, and you'll see how it's changed a little bit. Now we're looking at a person, but the person's connected to a phone, and I want to know if there's any other person. I have specifics on the individual. I'm looking for Frank Henry, and I know that his phone starts with 203, but that's all the information I have. So this time, hitting search on the left-hand side. Oh, it's going to ask me if I want to run a Hooster. So that's my subscribe to open source vendor. On the left-hand side, it's going to give me a synopsis of the entity's links that it brought back, as well as account. On the right-hand side, I get a preview of that information. I can filter down on any of this information. So if I want to look at my people, interrogate this information a little further, I absolutely can. This is a consolidated view of all of the data. I say consolidated because if I actually look at the record, everything is broken down by data source of which this information came from. So I will always understand what data came from what data source. And that way, if I need to understand or reach back into that data source and get more information than what is here, or in support of prosecution in the indictment process, being able to track back where this information is coming from, this is always available to you. Now, as I mentioned before, if you are satisfied with your results, you'll probably proceed about your workflow. And in this environment, I'm going to push these results to my visual platform because I am very visual in nature and I want to see it. So now I have my phone that starts with 203 in the middle and the individuals that are tied to that phone. Now I can continue to explore my data sources through our Blue Fusion connectors right here in the comfort of Analyst Notebook by exploring through our expand and filtered expand. Filtered expand allows me to pick and choose what entities I want brought forth. So if I only want to explore other assets these individuals are tied to, phones, addresses, vehicles, organizations, things of that nature, I can turn certain ones on or off. Or I can just do a straight expand and that'll bring anything and everything back by a predetermined degree of separation. So I can say maybe go out 4 degrees, bring back anything and everything these entities are connected to. And again, I'm crawling across 7 data sources simultaneously. Actually 6 because I'm turning my Hooster connector off. So in a matter of a few seconds, again, it's going to query those databases and bring back the results and then build out my entities, links, and properties and establish my network on my chart. As long as my network stays strong for me. Oh, they let me know. As I mentioned, this is my 4th presentation today, so my computer's been holding up, but oh, here we go. Again, I'm virtually dialing in. So, all right. So now I have a pretty robust network that I can work with. There are so many amazing capabilities built within Analyst Notebook that I would leverage at this point to better understand my network, looking at temporal things and seeing any type of behavior patterns and frequencies and highs and lows and things of that nature. But we're not going down that rabbit hole today. Instead, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to showcase another way to query and leverage Blue Fusion. So I mentioned up front, there are 2 primary ways, the other one being a property search. So this is a more tailored approach to specific information that you kind of already know exists and you want to just grab it and go. So for example, phone numbers, people's identifiers in the States, that might be a social security number, worldwide, that might be a passport number, looking at vehicles, plates, VINs, things of that nature. If any of you have LPRs, which I don't know a PD that doesn't, we can set up recurring queries through our property search and have a plate always running on the background. And if an LPR is one of your data sources, then when and if that pops, it will alert you. But also it takes into consideration all the other data too. So maybe it doesn't hit an LPR, but there's a traffic citation that comes through, or any other various methods that a plate might hit any of the systems that you're connected to. So you just select the entity, and then you can assign some properties, and you can do a 1-to-1 ratio. Anything outside of that, you're going to want to fall back into the visual query. But just like the visual query, we can save these, we can leverage them, we can share them with the team. And as I kind of already alluded to, you can set them up on reoccurring queries, so they're constantly running at your discretion. So here, I'm going to grab a phone number real quick, my phone number query, plug my phone number in, hit search. Again, it's something that I kind of already know to exist. And I'm just going to send it to my chart. I'm on to a bigger, better capability that happens to be my ultimate favorite here. So I'm just grabbing a couple entities and showing off the way our property search is leveraged at the same time. So I mentioned those vehicle plates. Let's see what that looks like. Plug in my plate, hit search again. If I wanted to interrogate this information, understand where this vehicle's come from, I can always look at the record. This is coming from the DMV. I happen to have access to it hypothetically in my old life, and then adding that to the chart. So now that I have two entities living on my chart, this touches on a huge pain point and challenge that I had in my past career. And that was in regards to the amount of time that I was spending trying to validate or disprove a nexus between any two entities. A lot of times it was, two people, but it could be a phone to a car, a vehicle to an address. And somewhere deep down inside, I had a gut feeling that they were absolutely tied together. And I would spend countless hours, days, and even weeks going through data sources and old Intel reports and even my internal filing system in my head late at night, trying to determine and understand this nexus. When Blue Fusion came out with this capability, I about passed out because I just thought about all the time and effort that I had spent in that regard. And now if I'm interested in two entities and there's a nexus and I have a plethora of data sources that I'm connected to be taken into consideration, I can simply do a path search, determine how many degrees of separation I'm willing to tolerate, and hit continue. And it's going to take all of that data across all 7 sources into consideration as if it were all living in one big, huge data lake, and find the path of least resistance. So now I know that my phone and my car are related through 2 other people in another phone. And I can confidently say in a matter of 30 seconds that there is a nexus here, and then I can continue to grow this network, or maybe I'm at a stopping point and this is all I needed and I can proceed in another direction. So that is, again, one of my favorite capabilities that Blue Fusion has to offer. Now, with everything that I've discussed and covered and even shown to you today, Blue Fusion does stand on its own 2 feet. So if your department, or there's a section within your department or organization that doesn't necessarily require the robust capabilities that Analyst Notebook or other intelligence platforms have to offer, you just want the ability to connect directly to your data sources and query them in a simultaneous fashion and understand those results, then Blue Fusion is applicable in that content as well. We can absolutely plug that in, and it can be a hybrid solution as well. If your analysts need this solution, such as what I shared with you right now, and then there's detectives and agents who want to access Blue Fusion and understand data no matter where they're located, this can be from the field as well. I know plenty of times I've worked hand in hand with agents where they're on surveillance at 2 a.m. on a Friday night and I was not in the office. So yeah, they have access to DMV and records management, but they didn't have access to the intelligence that I developed over the last 2 weeks in that database and my charts and things of that nature. But this would give them access to that as well. So it's a really great way to cohesively work with each other, have access to all the data, and do it in the most efficient manner possible. So without further ado, that concludes the demonstration, live demonstration of the software. But I do want to throw this next slide up in front of you guys. This isn't our entire list. This is what I grabbed and had access to a couple weeks ago. but I feel like this list is growing every day. This gives you a good understanding of the connectors that we already have built out, the relationships and partnerships that we have with third-party vendors that you may already be leveraging and have access to. But also, please understand that this list isn't the see-all be-all. We are adding to this every day. Actually, I don't even think DS Voice is on here and needs to be added.
Absolutely.
And sorry, sir, I need to update my library. But we're adding to this every day. Our goal is to quadruple this by the end of next year, no problem. The great news is that it takes our development team on average up to 80 hours to build a connector from scratch. So that's good for everybody. And let me just tell you a couple key points why. One, well, it's cost effective on our part because our development team isn't spending weeks, months, years building connectors to data. Two, it's going to be cost effective on your part because typically you're going to have to pay for our developing of the connectors. So if we can do it in a short amount of time, that's going to save you a lot of time and effort. But three, we're always going to be able to navigate and to pivot with these data sources or whatever is required by you. So typically upfront, what our conversations look like are understanding key data sources that are pertinent to your mission today, and then where some of that may lack and what you hope to ingest in the future. There might be a vendor on this list that you've been talking to or interested in that you aren't ingesting yet or don't have a partnership there yet. But knowing that you can grow into that in the future is an amazing partnership all around.